Getting the conversation started in the Lowcountry, this is Fresh Brewed. Today's special guests are Rick Turner and Doreen Baumann. Rick is a longtime Lowcountry resident and real estate broker. He shares his insights with us on current real estate trends. And Doreen is the co-chair of the Bluffton Creative Initiative. They're working to get Bluffton designated as a cultural district by the South Carolina Arts Commission. Hello, greetings, and welcome back to Fresh Brewed. I'm Ed McCullough. Our guest is Rick Turner. Rick is the president and broker in charge of Engel Völkers, a real estate firm on Hilton Head Island and Bluffton. Rick, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
And welcome to the new company, relatively new. How new?
6 months. 6 months old.
But you're not new to real estate in the area? I hesitate to ask how long you've been at it.
I know, I'm almost embarrassed to say how long I've been in real estate here.
You gonna tell me?
1972.
Oh my gosh.
My wife and I moved here and raised our kids here. We've been in real estate the whole time.
I didn't know that Hilton Head existed in 72.
Well, let me tell you, 1972, Ed, when you went to Palmetto Dunes, you went a long way. That was far out. That was the edge. Because everything centered on sea pines in the sea pine circle.
You know, I've been here a mere 31
Oh,
years.
you're a baby, yeah.
But my first job was with the Sea Pines Company, and 30 years ago, Sea Pines was the epicenter of life in the Lowcountry.
It was.
But it's a whole new world. Well, and let's speak, you have offices on Hilton Head and in Bluffton, and it's a much bigger world than it was in 72, and the center of life. I mean, well, here we are, we're filming in Old Town Bluffton, upstairs at the corner Perk. Well, can we talk about Old Town?
Yeah, let's talk about Old Town.
Let's talk about Old Town, and let's talk about the development in Bluffton and the real estate values, and how important is it to have an epicenter like Old Town, where you have the farmers market and you have the Bluffton Room and you have the promenade and you have these places where people want to talk and walk and see their neighbors and hang out. And
festivals and parades and just activity, you know, and it's become a walking village. I have to tell you a quick little story, Ed. Back years ago, not too many years ago, right in the depth of the recession, I was going to have lunch with John Reed, the guy who developed Colleton River and Belfair, Berkeley Hall, and Hampton Lake. And I said, John, hop in my car. I'm going to take you to a special place for lunch. And I said, I want you to guess where we're going. So we're driving from, I think, Berkeley Hall down toward Old Town. And he said, he was trying to guess. And he couldn't come up with what was in Old Town. And I took him. We finally drove up in front of the cottage, which had just the Cottage Cafe, which had just opened on Calhoun Street, and we went in. John had no idea it was open; it had been open about 2 weeks, and we sat out on that front porch and had lunch. And he said to me, he said, "I feel like I'm in Carmel."
In Carmel, California.
Carmel, California, on the beach.
Yeah.
Although not on the beach, but Carmel by the sea, and since then, I mean, here we were in the depth of the recession, right?
Yeah, this is like 2008.
I mean, they're opening a restaurant, they're opening the dispensary, and all these different things open up, and Captain Woody's opens up. And all of a sudden, even in the midst of the recession, Bluffton starts to boom. It's the only thing booming. Not booming, growing.
Yeah,
it's at least growing.
A spark, and it was moving in the right direction.
Yeah. So it's just been amazing to watch what's happened in Bluffton since about when the cottage opened. That's when it started.
I'm going to say that was 2008. By the way, Leslie, who started the cottage, started as the Bluffton Muffin lady at the farmers market and developed such a following, and then connected with Thomas at the Carson Cottages. But that's the way it works, and that's part of the beauty of Old Town. People just kind of get together, and all of a sudden we have new businesses. We're sitting surrounded by probably 6 or more buildings under construction as we speak. So we have a trend. So can we translate that into, give me some real estate numbers, some information, some trends. Can we translate this beautiful spark in Old Town into some improved values in the surrounding area?
Well, it's interesting. I got into our MLS this morning just kind of because I sensed that there was growth in values and growth in the number of sales and everything, but I didn't really know. So I went in and checked, and sales have gone from 18 homes sold, or let's see, I wrote it down, from, I'm sorry, 38 sales in 2014 to 44 sales in 2015, so growth. And if I had gone back another year, I think it was, I did that quickly, and I think it was 28. So it grew from 28 to 38 to 44 sales in Old Town, okay?
In Old Town, and you know, it seems like a relatively small number, but percentage-wise, it's twice as many, or thereabouts.
And the highest price sold in 2014 for a home in Old Town was $410,000. The highest price in 2015 was $606,000.
And if I'm just going to take a guess as a guy who hangs out in the neighborhood and say, I bet you that was the Fripp Loudon house.
Well, it was down on Calhoun Street. Well, yeah. No, it was actually 80 Calhoun.
That's
80
it.
Calhoun.
That's it.
80 Calhoun. So definitely there's been a growth in values. And a growth, the average price went from $206,000 to $220,000. So prices have gone up and number of sales have gone up in Old Town. And it's only just begun, in my opinion.
And can we use Old Town as a harbinger or a catalyst for what we expect in the larger market? In other words, all boats rise on the same tide. If Old Town is experiencing this, then all the surrounding areas are going to see a comparable rise in value as well.
Well, what you have to realize is that in 2015, for the first time in history, over 3,000 homes were purchased in the Hilton Head Island, Bluffton area. First time ever. There's never been 3,000. It was actually 3,006 homes purchased, and it's the year before was 2,683 homes. So we broke 3,000 for the first time. Significantly broke last year's record.
And again, you know, 500 more houses, but it's over a 20% increase in the volume in a single year. That is a trend that I want to pick up on in our next segment. We're going to come back and do another segment shortly. We have been speaking with Rick Turner. Rick is the president and broker in charge of Engel and Völkers Real Estate, offices on Hilton Head Island and Bluffton. I'm Ed McCullough. This is Fresh Brewed. Welcome back to Fresh Brewed. I'm Ed McCullough. Our guest is Rick Turner. Rick is the president and broker in charge of Engel and Völkers, a real estate firm with offices on Hilton Head Island and Bluffton. Welcome back, Rick.
Thank you.
We talked about Old Town in the first segment and this magic catalyst, and it's the epicenter, and all these beautiful things are springing forth from it. Well, speaking of Bluffton and Old Town, your new office is going to be at the Promenade, is that right?
That's right. We just closed on a space in the Promenade. You know, one of those little spaces downstairs.
One of those where you can get to Captain Woody's really quick after work.
Yeah, that's right. It's right just across the little street from Captain Woody's, and we'll be opening up a new shop there probably end of this year, early next year.
Right on. So we talked about these trends in real estate, using Old Town as an example in the first segment. When we look at those trends, and from your amazingly long-range perspective going back to 1972, I still can't believe that. Do you look at it in the context of the long term and say, whoa, come on now is a good time to jump into this market?
Well, what I often say to people is I don't know if the Bluffton or the Hilton Head area is for you. You know, it might be Florida, it might be Arizona, but if it is this area, your timing is perfect to buy here. Interest rates are at historic lows. I mean, we're borrowing money, people are borrowing money to buy houses under 4%.
Wow.
Under 4%. I mean, you and I remember, it was typically 8, 7.5, 8, 8.5, 9%. And of course, there was a time when it got up to 17%. And so money is so inexpensive, number one. And number two, what's happened is prices are starting to rise. Prices are up in the Hilton Head, Bluffton area, 8.9% in 2015 versus 2014, but they're still 29% below the peak set in 2005. So you can still
see that as room to grow, continue to grow.
Yeah. First of all, it's the only place I've heard of in America that had its best year ever in home sales.
Really?
I mean, Chicago, Washington, New York, little pockets, LA, wherever, none of them had, that I know of, the best year they ever had. So here we had the best year in home sales in the history of our area, number one. And number two, interest rates are incredibly low. Interest rates are incredibly low, and prices are 29% below what they were at the peak.
And you know, when you say 29, I heard there were 29 inches of snow in Baltimore recently. And can we speak to a larger demographic? I'll use a brother of mine in New York City. He's retiring. He and his wife worked at hospitals. They have this thing called a pension. I read about that in a history book once.
Yeah.
And they're selling a brownstone in Brooklyn that they've owned for 30 years. And guess where they want to come?
They want to come right here.
Bluffton,
yeah.
Because of the weather. But more than the weather, some of the stuff we talked about in the first segment, you know, how beautiful is life in Old Town and how many things there are to do on Hilton Head. Plus, they want to be near family.
Well, and there's I think there's two other big factors going on. One is in 2011, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, all the way back for about 20 years, there were 3,300 people a day turning 65. That was what we call the greatest generation. Those are our parents who fought in World War II and went through the Depression and all that. And in 2012, it jumped from 3,300 people a day turning 65 to 10,000 people a day turning 65 years old. And surveys have been done of those baby boomers, of which we are, and surveys have been done of them, and 3% say they want to move to the northeastern United States, and maybe a little less today after the storms.
The snowstorm.
And 9% want to move to the West Coast, and different other percentages to different other parts of the country, and 42% say they want to come to the southeastern United States.
Southeastern, not even just south.
Yeah,
not southwest,
southeastern.
What was that percent?
42%. So 42% of 10,000 people a day, you know, baby boomers, largest generation in the history of America previous to this. And so that's a big factor of why we're going to continue to see very nice growth here.
And they have money.
And they definitely have money now that the recession is over. And the second big factor that's happened is there's a huge shift in this information society, internet, our cell phones, and so on and so forth, where we're seeing lots of people who are in their 50s and even in their 40s who are moving here, running their business out of Bluffton, out of Hilton Head, because they can.
They can do it online. They could do it from anywhere.
They can do it, and they get in an airplane and go visit whatever company they need to visit, but otherwise this is their home base. So we're seeing a lot of people who are young and still working very hard who are moving here early because they want to enjoy this nice climate.
So you started by saying Hilton Head and Bluffton might not be right for you, but then let's take it down to another level, and let's say Hilton Head Bluffton is right for you. But we have Old Town Bluffton, and we have gated communities on Hilton Head. We have a wide variety of inventory. How important is it in the process with a client where you really got to know who they are so that you can direct, and you got to know what the market is so that you can direct them to the right property?
Oh, I mean that's the thrill of our job as realtors, is really listening to what the needs are of people, what they would really like to accomplish, and keep it in their budget. and we love that process. And there's something for everybody, from a $125,000 house to a $6 million house, or a $12 million house.
Well, when you start talking the upper numbers, my mind jumped out to Palmetto Bluff. Somebody told me there's 155 houses under construction in Palmetto Bluff as we speak.
They are booming. You need to get someone from that company to come and talk to you, because they're booming. And the inn is ready to what, triple?
Oh yeah.
They're going from 40 to 200 rooms.
Yeah. Rooms, and every one of those rooms that gets rented out is a prospective buyer for a property in this market. We're just about out of time, but you said you had 9 agents. Do each of your agents tend to specify in a particular area? Some yes, some no?
Most of them are generalists. In other words, they work from Palmetto Bluff and Sun City all the way down to the tip of Sea Pines.
And they know the market, and like you said, key is to listen. It's been a pleasure to listen
to
you
today.
Thank
you, Ed.
Thanks for coming by. We look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you.
We have been speaking with Rick Turner. Rick is the president and broker in charge of Engel Völkers Real Estate. They have offices on Hilton Head Island and Bluffton. Stay tuned. We'll be joined by Doreen Baumann after this break. Hello, greetings, and welcome back to Fresh Brewed. I'm Ed McCullough. Our guest is Doreen Baumann. Doreen is the co-chair of the Bluffton Creative Initiative, which is the steering committee for the designation of Bluffton as a cultural district by the South Carolina Arts Commission. What did I just say? That is a mouthful and a half, but we're going to break it down. Let's start at the last thing that I said, which is a cultural district by the South Carolina Arts Commission. We're getting designated. Bluffton is getting designated. What does that mean?
What it means is that the state, along with 13 other states, has chosen to designate certain areas of towns or rural areas as cultural districts, which means a geographic area that has an abundance of arts and cultural venues and galleries and art schools and museums and libraries within that walkable area.
It's a walkable geographic area, and in this case, Bluffton, for the application purposes, is Old Town, but it goes up 46 down to where the library is. And within that, quote, district, we have what qualifies us is art galleries, performing arts, May River, that kind of thing?
May River Theater, we have the public library, we have 9 galleries, we have almost 30 restaurants, and that is part of the cultural district. Culinary arts as well. Also, we have about 20 design studios, architecture facilities, architectural and design
like landscape architects, interior designers, folks like that. Okay, so
that's all
you are
included.
Pulling all these disparate threads together, and you're creating this application. When Bluffton gets designated as a cultural district, what does that do for us? What's the benefit?
It actually, in our case, the South Carolina Arts Commission, who's designating these districts, at this point can only give us identity, and that can go a long way in providing us with future grants for those nonprofits who want to apply for grants from the NEA or different grants, because many times they're already looking for designations as a cultural district. So it could really give us a lot of impact there in our fundraising ability.
So once we're designated as a cultural district, if we are a nonprofit within that district and we want to apply for a grant, we got a better shot at it.
Exactly.
So having said that, and can you do this from memory? Because I think there's 9 of them. Can you rattle off some of the names of some of the nonprofits that you're partnering with in this application process?
Yes, in order to manage the district, we actually chose, because we don't have a formal arts council or we're not doing it through the town, we decided that we would gather the nonprofit and for-profit businesses, and to include the Society of Bluffton Artists, the Old Town Merchant Society, the Bluffton Historical Preservation Society, along with Celebrate Bluffton.
I think the May
Arts
River
and Seafood,
Theater
the
is
May
in
River
there.
Theater.
I think ACTA, a Call to Action is in there.
And also the Farmers Market.
The Bluffton Farmers Market, and the way this works, you're putting it all together, you're gathering the resources, you're doing some of the legwork, but ultimately the town of Bluffton does the application, correct?
Yes, the applicant had to be the town, and they have sent in the application on January 7th. We have received confirmation from the Arts Commission that we have satisfied the application process, and so we'll be waiting to hear on or take a week or so around February 18th.
Let's just assume we crossed the T's, we got the I's, we got the designation, and let's say we are a nonprofit within this cultural district. Let's use ACTA as an example. They want to renovate the Campbell Chapel, and they want to apply for grant money. Will you participate in that process with these nonprofits once we are designated as a cultural district? And will that make other funds available to them that would not have been available otherwise?
Yes, it will, because what we'll be doing is grant makers today want to see collaborative partnerships, and the strength of our alliance with all these nonprofits and for-profits will strengthen their application process. And so we are already working with them in possibility of an Arts Place for Arts Place America grant. And so they're—
When you say them, who's them?
Call to Action.
Oh, Call to Action, yes. Over at the Campbell Chapel.
Right.
And will you participate in perhaps researching and identifying resources out there that are available to some of these nonprofits that they may not have been aware of themselves?
Yes, absolutely, because what we're doing is we're forming 5 task forces, and those task forces will be organization, which will be researching exactly what you're talking about as far as researching the possible grants and available funding, sponsorships. We're also organizing and looking into properties and what may be available for possible new ventures in Bluffton. Then we're doing—
You say properties, you talking real estate?
Yes.
Properties?
Yes.
And a new venture, meaning a new venture developing a new artistic entity, right, such as a gallery or
exactly.
performing arts, or
right.
When you would partner with someone who might have the idea of what they would like to do and
right.
connect with them vis-a-vis the property and the grant writing and the whole thing.
Right. What we'll do is put together a list of available properties, possibly that ventures could look at. And we're going to be looking at— that's through organization. Then through outreach and education is where we're going to collaborate with our neighboring communities, our neighboring nonprofits, and also reach out to the schools, possibility of developing a communication platform for connecting the private, public, and homeschool, as well as together so that they know what's going on in the art community, particularly all art and cultural based.
So raising awareness of everything going
exactly.
on in the arts community. And you guys, the Bluffton Creative Initiative, 9 people? How many people? Or are there member organizations?
There's 2 organizations. One is the Bluffton Cultural District Alliance, which is the 9 organizations.
Right.
But the steering committee, which has been the Bluffton Creative Initiative, is developing these 5 task forces: organization, outreach and education, district design, planning of events, and also promotion.
And you guys are zealous supporters of the arts, and you're all volunteers, and you're doing this because you believe in it.
Absolutely, we're passionate about it.
And you're going to bring thousands and thousands of dollars to the neighborhood for the arts, and believe it or not, we're out of time.
Okay.
But thank you so much for
You're
stopping
welcome.
by, and thanks
I
for your—
appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, we appreciate what you're doing. Invite us to the party in February when you get the designation. We're going to have a party?
We hope to. That's who we're meeting with the
We
town.
have been speaking with Doreen Baumann. She is the co-chair of the Bluffton Creative Initiative, which is the steering committee for the designation of Bluffton as a cultural district by the South Carolina Arts Commission. I'm Ed McCullough. This is Fresh Brewed. Thanks for being with us. Watch all our episodes at freshbrewedtv.com.